One of my favorite times of the year, NBA trade season, is here. It's finally here, ladies and gentlemen. We already had our first trade of the season. It's better than nothing. For today's video, I thought, why not put together a list of 5 teams that I think should make a trade before the trade deadline to help them this season. I'm not talking about teams that I think need to blow it up, like Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago. Maybe that's a video for a different day. I'm talking about teams that I think should improve. Look to improve their roster to try and make a run at a championship this season. Hey, who do you think has been 6th in offense since November 1st in the entire NBA? The Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. What the fuck, Los Angeles Lakers doing an all-in trade to try to win this season? Let me explain, okay? I know typically when people talk about the Lakers making a trade, it's like, oh, they need to just trade away Russell Westbrook. They need to trade away Anthony Davis. I think a world exists where the Lakers make some moves to improve their current roster, and they go into the play-in tournament, of which they're currently a game and a half back of the play-in. They're currently 12th in the Western Conference. But they're not a team I would love to see in the play-in or in a 7-game series. Like, I get it's been funny to laugh at the Lakers. I understand that, but I wouldn't love to see them. LeBron is averaging 29, 8, and 6 on 58% true shooting as a 38-year-old. I mean, his offensive output this year has been otherworldly. Anthony Davis will be back at some point, I'm assuming, right? And he was performing like a top 5 player, honestly, whenever he was on the floor. LeBron and AD have a positive net rating whenever they share the floor together. And I don't think there's too many teams. Like, think about all the teams ahead of them in the standings. Which team would love to see a healthy LeBron and AD duo in the playoffs, especially if they go out and get somebody to help their roster right now? What if they go out and get a Bojan, who they're interested in? You'll notice that every team I'm about to talk about is interested in Bojan Bogdanovic, and every team who's trying to win right now should be interested in a guy like Bojan. They make a move for LaVine. Like, I have no idea what Zach LaVine's trade value is. What if they swing a trade for him? What if they go out and get Fred VanVleet or something? Like, that's not really a team I'd be all that interested in playing. They have no real reason to tank. They don't have their pick. You should always be trying when LeBron James is on your roster, always. I don't know. I think that they could make a trade and be kind of an interesting play-in / playoff team. Let's stay in Los Angeles for the next team on this list. I don't like the Clippers. I do not like this team. I have not liked this team all season long. I think their record has been incredibly fake. They're 6th in the West, which, considering, you know, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, their injury management, they've missed games, they've had minute restrictions. Being 6th, 2 games over 500, really is not that bad of a place to be at, but they have a negative net rating. According to adjusted net rating, they are 25th in the NBA. Like, if you look at the teams that they're around in adjusted net rating, we're talking about the Wembanyama sweepstakes down here. They have the 2nd worst offense in the NBA by adjusted offensive rating. Shit stinks. I don't like watching them. And I'm not just saying that because I had to endure that utter disaster of a game last night against the Nuggets. This team is a chore. They are an absolute chore to sit through. Like, watching Reggie Jackson possessions will make you want to rip your eyeballs out. Watching John Wall possessions will make you want to rip your eyeballs out. Watching Marcus Morris possessions would make you want to rip your eyeballs out. Like, what felt like one of the deepest teams in the league heading into the season, and they are still deep, but it just feels like they're deep with a bunch of guys. You know, like, nothing really jumps out at you. Like, Luke Kennard's been really good. Zubats has been really good at times. But, like, Norman Powell's been up and down. Marcus Morris is terrible. Reggie Jackson, I can't believe that he's still, like, their guard. John Wall, it's been, you know, what you would expect out of John Wall at this stage. Robert Covington's, like, out of the rotation. Like, it's just been crazy to see. But they have a 7.3 net rating when Kawhi and Paul George are on the floor together. They have a 44 net rating in 43 minutes, which isn't that huge of a sample size, but still, when Paul George, Kawhi, and Luke Kennard are on the floor together, they still have a championship ceiling currently constructed. Like, that's assuming Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are healthy and playing to their level whenever they get to the playoffs. They got to get there. They have to get to the playoffs. And I've seen this sentiment among Clippers fans where it's like, yeah, playoffs don't matter. Like, we just, our regular season doesn't matter. We just got to get to the playoffs. No. Regular season does matter for you guys because you're now very much at risk of being a play-in team. And even though, you know, you like your chances in a play-in game if Kawhi and Paul George are playing, no play-in team since they implemented the tournament has gone on to win a playoff series. Just something to think about, man. I think that they should try and they should consider a move to help bolster their roster right now and help them when Kawhi and Paul George aren't on the floor, or to help that duo together. I don't know, but I hate watching them. Next team on my, you know they're going to be on here, the Dallas Mavericks. I actually have no idea what the Dallas Mavericks do. I don't envy Nico Harrison. I don't envy Mark Cuban, even though, Mark Cuban, you made your bed. You have to lay in it right now, young man. I feel like they need to try and capitalize on this. Like, I really do. They're 4th in the West, which feels improbable considering where they were like a month ago and the direction it looked like the team was headed. Luka Doncic is performing like the MVP of the league. He's having one of the greatest offensive seasons we've seen in the history of the league, or at least in modern era. And I just feel like when you have something like that, I know that you don't really have the assets. You don't have the young players. You still owe the Knicks a pick. So the next pick you could trade as of right now is, I think, the 2027 first round pick, unless you get the Knicks to take your protections off the 2023 first round pick. So you don't really have much to work with. But damn, man, it feels like you should try and do something. Like, in my pea-sized brain earlier this morning, I was thinking, like, man, what if the Mavericks, like, traded for Bojan Bogdanovic? What if, like, Fred VanVleet was really cheap and they were able to get him for, like, a future first and maybe, like, Josh Green or something? And what if they, like, swung a trade for Perk? I don't know if that's even realistically possible at all to get a singular one of those guys, but what if they just somehow pulled off the finesse of all time? Like, that's a championship roster right there this season. With the West as wide open as it just is. Get that the smart play for the Mavericks is we're just going to ride this shit out, right? If somebody pops up for really cheap, maybe we make a move. But damn, it's just hard to watch a Luka Doncic season like this just be pissed away pretty much, because you've just been probably the worst team when it comes to roster building over the past 20 years, especially when it comes to putting a roster around generational Hall of Fame level players. The Phoenix Suns are collapsing in on themselves like a dying star. They desperately need to do something. And I'm putting them on here for one specific reason, and I'll get to that in a second. But hey, listen, I think I owe Devin Booker an apology. Okay, I've sort of poo-pooed all of his MVP narratives over the past couple of seasons. Just didn't think he was an MVP level player, despite the fact that the Suns have been tremendous. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Maybe I'm incorrect. Devin Booker's been out for a couple weeks now. Sounds like he's still going to be out another 2 to 3 weeks at least. Like, that's when they're reevaluating him. So that's at least another 2 to 3 weeks. They are 2-8 when he doesn't play. Like, they look like a complete and total disaster right now when Devin Booker is not on the floor. Chris Paul is done. Like, it's over for him. He's had a couple of nice nights here and there, but just overall, it's over. It's finished. You cannot rely on him over the course of an 82-game season. I don't think you can rely on him over the course of a postseason any longer. He's having the worst season of his career for the first time in his entire career. His longest shit career, dating all the way back to his rookie season in New Orleans. He's had a negative on-off number. The Suns are a worse team when Chris Paul is on the floor. Chris Paul, Devin Booker duo, it's just not really doing what it used to do, right? Last season, it was just eviscerating opponents. I think last year they had like an 11 net rating when those two were on the floor together, which was the majority of the time. Like, they were just killing opponents. And now Chris Paul's old as dirt. Devin Booker's hurt. Ayton is the softest big man I've ever seen. Mikal Bridges is just... he's not that guy offensively. Great defensive guy, great complementary piece offensively, but he's never going to become what I think they want him to become. They have legitimate depth issues. Cam Johnson's still not back. They're a Trae Young team. That's right. I said it. I've been saying this. I think that they are a sneaky Trae Young team. I don't know how it would work. I don't know what the trade package would look like. I know they were very interested in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, which obviously it's fucking Kevin Durant. Every team worth their weight in anything should be interested in Kevin Durant. But they desperately need a secondary creator on their team next to Devin Booker. And I think Trae Young replacing Chris Paul in the Chris Paul spot, even though Chris Paul, obviously great defender, Trae Young a terrible defender, even though I think Chris Paul's defense pretty overrated over the last couple of seasons, if I'm just being honest. Defensive infrastructure exists to hide Trae Young. That would just be such an interesting thing. I don't think it will happen, but man, that's like one of those things where in 2K, I'm definitely making that shit happen. And the last team I want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks, okay? They're very active in the trade market. They almost swung a trade for Jay Crowder earlier in the year. That fell through. I saw some like fringe reports last night that they were getting close to doing that trade again. I don't know how, reliable some of these sources are, but we've already talked about Bojan Bogdanovic in this video. Again, I mentioned every single team I've talked about has been linked to Bojan, except the Clippers, I think. But this would be the team I would predict. Like, if I had to make a prediction right now, I think this is the team Bojan Bogdanovic ends up on if he gets traded. It makes so much sense for the Bucks. They desperately need some wing depth. A lot of their offseason decisions should really be looked at and questioned at this point, right? Like, they went out and got Joe Ingles. That's fine. Hasn't really been good. Grayson Allen has been terrible. They bring back Jordan Nwora after it's not like they're going to trade him, and it seemed like they didn't even want him. They're just going to let him go, and then they bring him back, and he never plays and has been bad. Among contending teams, like among the teams that really want to win, they have the worst half-court offense in the NBA. I think it's like 6th last overall. It's really hard to watch sometimes. Giannis is out there by himself a lot, and even then, like, Giannis as a half-court creator isn't the greatest thing in the world. And a lot of that could be tied to Chris Middleton's only played 7 games this season, and he was horrendous in those 7 games that he's played. But that's another reason why, if I'm the Bucks, I'm really trying to make a move. And Jay Crowder would be cool, don't get me wrong, but like a Bojan Bogdanovic, that propels this team. This team's ceiling already is a championship level team. Like, make no mistake about it. The Bucks, as they currently are constructed, can win a championship. But if you add Bojan Bogdanovic to the equation, Like, they're right. Like, they got to be top 2, top 3 in terms of championship favorite. You don't know if you can rely on Chris Middleton, and he needs to be there to help you solve your half-court offense woes. Like, he's definitely going to help in that regard. So you get some insurance for him this season by bringing in Bojan, who could everywhere Bojan has been in his career, I think except 1 year in Utah. Like, the teams that he's been on has been much better in the half-court when Bojan is on the floor. And you also get some insurance in the future. Like, Chris Middleton has a player option this upcoming summer, which he's probably not taking. He's going to hit unrestricted free agency. You would like to think you could bring him back, but you never know. Unrestricted free agency, you never know what's going to happen. Trust me, as a Mavericks fan who saw their point guard hit unrestricted free agency in a summer you thought for sure he was coming back, you don't know what is going to happen in unrestricted free agency. Anyways, yeah, these are the 5 teams that I think should make a move at the trade deadline, have to do something to try and improve their roster. And who knows, if any of these 5 teams make a serious move, maybe not the Lakers. I forgot to put the Lakers on this list. But any of these 5 teams make a serious move, their ceiling dramatically improves. I mean, it really does. Okay, don't know how to end a video, so let me just end it by saying this. Whenever you guys sit down